Shalom everybody, Daniel, One Love Caravan, here with Susie and Ashanti, and we have here the map in front of us. I don't show my face yet. I have still these issues with the infection on my nose, but no problem. So Susie will ask some questions, some general questions, and we will answer these questions. And yes, please, first question.
Okay, hello everybody, Susie here. The first question would be, where does humanity come from?
All right, so yes, we have here, again, we have here the map from Africa, and we have also we have here, for example, the Bible. And according to the Bible, again, the humanity is coming from a place called Eden. Yeah, we have this in Genesis, like, yeah, Bereshis, there, the beginning. In the Bible, like in the Ethiopian Bible, I think the Bible starts with Enoch. And there's also a book of Adam. That's also very important, because the first man be Adam, yeah, knowing Adam. So Genesis, here Genesis, you know, here I have this actually here in Spanish, but doesn't matter. I'm saying here, there is four rivers, yeah, from Eden coming out, and there is the Pison, and there is the Gihon, and there is the Tigris and the Euphrates. So this is would be, you know, I think the Pison, this is talking about the Congo River, and the Gihon is the River Nile. Where is the in Uganda, in today Uganda and today Ethiopia, they're the sources of the Nile, and they come here together in Sudan, in Khartoum, and this is the longest river in the world, again the River Nile. And then we have the Tigris and the Euphrates. These are the two rivers here what actually come here. The spring is in the Caucasus Mountains, so this would be described as Eden. So Eden would be this area. As you can see, we're talking about Africa. And so, but this Tobia, again, this Ethiopia, Tobia, this the good land, the fertile land, we're talking then about the equatorial belt. So humanity must come from the equatorial belt according to our body temperature, which is from the equator. So if we have here several maps. So we go to the world map here, because there is also the other vision. If you now we look it from the side, yeah, but if you would look it from the top, when there would be the North Pole in the middle, yeah, then it would be like this flat Earth map, whatever. But also here you can see the zero equatorial zero, okay, goes around here, and this we would refer as the equatorial belt. And yeah, if you can see these lines here, this is because there is island groups like, you know, Polynesian and Kiribati, and very important, you know, all these island groups, yeah, there are independent nations, countries, or they belong to some, like here saying United States of America, like Palau is somehow occupied by United States of America. And you know, yeah, all these islands there, there is a lot of uninhabited islands also. But as you can see, all these islands, if you would go down with the water level, there would be continents like hidden. This would be all together. Like you see, once upon a time there was the last ice age. You would see that this whole north would be under the ice. Only the equatorial belt was never changed, like it's always the same temperature. And around this equatorial belt is which the humanity coming from. So the first human would come from equatorial belt region. It means we have, if you go, I do believe that this once again, you could go almost walk around the world on this equatorial belt. Even nowadays, you have everywhere islands. So if you go around here easily, you can reach another island. You can go around the world around the equator, and you have always these mountains. Again, you have here, the Kilimanjaro. Almost, it's 6,000 meters. You have Mount Kenya. You have these mountains here from 5,000 meters, 5,100 meters around the equator. You go all around over the equator, you will see these volcanic mountains, with very fertile soil, and also there in these highlands there are the springs. Like here again, you have Lake Victoria. You have on the island Lake Victoria, on the Lake Victoria, you have islands, where even, like imagine if you come from a mountain area, like human come from a mountain area between, like again, the peak and between the sea. There are all the conditions for the human being, because human being need water. First of all, you would need water, and fresh water, not salt water, so fresh water from the spring. So there, where is humanity come from in a geographical sense? So physically, the human being coming around the equator. Okay.
Okay, very good. So the second question, where was the first civilization?
Again, so as humanity emerged around the equator, the first civilization would also come from there. So what we would refer today as here, Africa, was called Ethiopia, was called many names, but several regions there have different names. So we had the first civilization, as it is referred also in scriptures, as, for example, Kush, Kush, and as kingdoms, as first. So out of Kush, there they go again. That's first civilization coming here from where the source of the Nile is as well. The Nile is being the biggest river, and the only one who goes from the south flows to the north, and it's very important. Even if you see here, the Mediterranean Sea is something what was built itself later on. The Mediterranean Sea, did not always exist. So this came later on. But a river Nile, it always existed. Okay, even before humanity. So if you follow this river Nile, which nowadays goes into the Mediterranean Sea, once there was no Mediterranean Sea, but yes, there was the river Nile continuing. And again, this was once, several times it was frozen, but the last time it was frozen, the last ice age, we can see there's also where the so-called Caucasians, the white people, like the Aryans, or however you want to call us white people, you see, even myself, I'm quite white, and I marks, like white marks on the skin. This all genetics, because again, people got trapped in behind the glaciers, and many people do they used to live in caves, because inside the cave, even if there's an ice age, inside the cave it's very hot, and you can find caves, tunnel systems, underground tunnel systems, and but this is other question, now the first civilization again would come out from where the big rivers also coming from. You would just follow the river, and then you would go to the civilization.
Okay. So, so where do all the different genetic features or so-called races origin from? Because you talked about the Caucasians, but then there's the Asians, you know, and then there's the Indians, and how
Here we
come
go.
everyone comes from Africa
Yeah.
and there's this different genetics?
You see, okay, so there is one thing, for example, the indigenous people, like we're talking now about the indigenous people. So again, we have, here we supporting hardly the indigenous people of Biafra, again, as being the biblical Jews, I think even specifically from the tribe of God. But anyhow, all these tribes, nowadays they are all mixed together. So we are actually we have blood from many tribes, yeah. But there are some more homogeneous people, yeah. And you see the indigenous people of Biafra land would be the Igbo people, okay? So the Igbo is what we would say is Jewish from origin, eh? But here also we have indigenous people, you see, for example, from the southern part of Africa, yeah? So, for example, these Khoisan people, the Khoisan people, they're not Bantu. They would be, before in Namibia or Angola, Namibia, South Africa, these places, Botswana, they would be the first people there. The first people, the remains from the first people would be this kind of people. They're not Bantu. Their language is not Bantu. They had even these click sounds, the language with the click sounds. And these indigenous people. And if you go down here, history, you have something that is saying here that, you know, late Stone Age. You have here many genetic evidence, and also that this is actually the oldest people. And you can see violence against the Khoisan. Herero and Nama genocide, yeah? So there were, during the Herero and Nama genocide, about 10,000 Nama and Khoi, the group, yeah, this Khoisan. And an unknown number of San people were killed in an extermination campaign by the German colonial empire between 1904 and 1908. So again, this after the Berlin Conference, yeah, they decided to exterminate all the indigenous people in the world. Yeah, this agenda goes on even longer to exterminate the indigenous. Yeah, I mean the Romans, that did even exterminate, let's say, the culture of the indigenous people from Europe. And then we go into this, but again, there is indigenous people, again from South Africa, the Khoisan people, from today Japan and Korea. In these areas we would have the Ainu people. Look at this. This is a picture from Ainu people. These indigenous people from Japan. Yeah. So this Ainu people is also, they're known as the bear people. You can see they have a very, you can even see, and look, here's a Ainu, they have a bear. It's very important because the bear is very important for these people. That's how they could survive in the cold, yeah? Because again, we all come from the equator. The first people were black people from Africa, like we know them today. Black people from Africa. This is the first people. But even in Africa, again, you have many phenotypes. As you can see, this is indigenous people from Japan now, and has a bear here. And with the bear, they could survive in the cold. That's even the Inuit. You know, Inuit would be the same people as this one, yeah? And this one, the Ainu people, the bear people, the indigenous people from Japan and Korea and other regions, yeah, they suffered genocide. So the Japanese culture, they call them the colonizers. So they call them people who are not to trust, because they want to get rid of, they wanted to get rid of the indigenous. They still want. That's why it's genocide going on, for example, in Biafra land, because it's against the indigenous people. Because every indigenous culture all over the world, they have the same mythology. In fact, they have the same spiritual belief, because they come all from the same place. So again, with you know, we have here the Khoisan people. Again, you see the Khoisan people. Yeah, I don't think they have beard. Yeah, the Ainu people, they have a beard. Yeah, because when it's getting cold, then you maybe get more beard. You know, like it's also climate. You know, here you have the Inuit, the indigenous from the Arctic zone. Like, what should I say? From the cold. You see, without the bear fur, and without the animals, without eating animals, without wearing animals, they could not survive. So that's the whole ice age. With the people without the animals, they could not survive. Yeah, so here we have, for example, Georgia. This is a country in the Caucasus. That's why the white people called Caucasians. And Georgian people, they're indigenous from there. So it's the indigenous. You can read the history and the mythology. It's very, very interesting. But they're also Christians, yeah, from origin. But as you can see, they're Caucasian, because they come from the Caucasus Mountains, yeah. And you know, even Joseph Stalin, he was from Georgia. That we was Caucasian, not Slavic. So he was also a white supremacist. You know, this is the problem. There's some white supremacists, yeah, but there's also, again, this is, for example, the Tajik people from today Tajikistan. There is also indigenous people, yeah, white people, and for example, this is the Amazigh people. You have white tribes, like real Caucasians, like here from the north of Morocco, for example. And this would also be many indigenous tribes here. Celtic tribes would be just the same. The ones who came from the Ice Age, they turned white, but others, they continued to be black, yeah, and then also they mixed a lot. So there is all kind of mixing all over, and there is you can see this Amazigh, indigenous people from for example Morocco, yeah, or from what we would say here the Iberian Peninsula. Again, indigenous people share all the same origin, but then we have the phenotypes, you know, all the phenotypes can be found in Africa in the first place. So yes, we have this question now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
answered
ask
as
you.
well.
You already answered exactly where
So
the
the
indigenous
next one,
people of Europe, yeah.
the indigenous people from
Yeah,
Europe would
exactly,
be
the
then, so say the Caucasians, but again we would have tribes as we refer the Celtics, yeah. So as we go to Europe, because again Europe is not really a real continent. Sorry, where is Europe again? You see, here we can even see the North Pole, the South Pole. Europe, so-called Europe. You can see even on the map from Africa, there is almost the half of Europe is on the map from Africa, because according to the biblical description, again, Eden goes until here. It's nowadays Turkey. So as you can see, all the Mediterranean, all this should be also make part of Africa. And this was always the region of North Africa, let's say, and the indigenous people, again, from North Africa nowadays, are the indigenous people from Mediterranean in general. That's what I'm saying, that it's all the same people around the Mediterranean. And then if you go further up, it changes the climate. And if you see here the European, which again it's all a fantasy, this European thing. But if you see really the indigenous people from Iberia here, yeah, Celtic tribes, and again Celtics, this is they're African people, African language. We can refer them as the Cushitic people, Cushitic from origin, Celtics. But again, many people during the cold, during the lack of sunlight, thousands of years, they turned white. And that's why you have so many, let's say, also nomadic tribes here from this area, and in specifically, again, the Caucasus mountains, because they are the highest mountains in so-called Europe. So, but everywhere you have mountains, yeah, you have rivers, and you have, through these rivers, the people were always connected. Before we had highways and all this, all these people coming out of the river Nile, for example, yeah, then you're following, you know, the waves, the streams, and you go all over the world with boats, actually. And that's why I would say that the indigenous people all over the world, yeah, were always on the move also, yeah. So and the first method to travel was all like long distance was with a boat. Okay, so that's why the humanity by origin are seafaring people. Okay, by origin, let's say, and that's also why we are like very connected with this Viking culture and all this thing. We will talk more about that in other occasions. But yeah, we have other questions, right?
Yes.
So go on, please.
Yeah, the next question would be, what has the Jewish tradition and the tribes of Israel to do with our history?
The Jewish, again, because look, we have here a thing what is called the Bible. Huh? If you watch this Bible, it means actually look, the La Biblia, it would mean book, kitabo, yeah, book, livro, buch. It would mean book. So because again the Jewish, let's say Jew, it's coming from Yehuda, and Yehuda was a tribe. Yes, Yehuda was also like Judah. Let's say in that words, Judah was also an individual. It was a man. Yes, Judah. So it was also the son of Jacob, right? Who then turned like to be Israel, like Jacob. Yeah, his name, after he wrestled with the man who was an angel later on. Yeah. The angel said, from now on, your name is Israel. It means the one who wrestled with God, let's say, with Elohim. Okay, so it's very important because the Hebrew, let's say the Hebrew, would come from Abar, I think, Abar, what means to cross over, and this would mean the Hebrew language, let's say the Yehudit, is very it's present all over the world. Like you have this, it's not the same language that they speak now in the state of Israel, but it is Afro-Semitic ancient language, so it means come from Africa. The Hebrew language coming from Africa, okay, and it's very important because in the Bible it's telling us this story from the Hebrews, okay, and it's also again Rastafari now, okay. It's about again Haile Selassie. It's about the lion of the tribe of Judah. Again, there were 12 tribes of Israel, and also the land of Israel, which is according again to the Bible, it is all this. They would say it's really almost what you're looking at now. Okay, just maybe this not, because here it is until the Tigris and Euphrates again. But yeah, it is this area, Israel, like you would have the, the Tobia, like the equatorial belt, but you would then have the land of Israel, yeah? And very important, because again, now at the time it's a war going on there in the state of Israel, yeah? Where are again Caucasian people mostly occupied this land. Again, this is the same colonization that's going on, and the same genocide against the indigenous people from there. We would be the Palestinians, or however you want to call them. The indigenous people from there, there are also many tribes where nowadays living there, but the indigenous people from there, would be also African people, like again, the indigenous people all over the place originally are African people. And Europe, again, for me it's just there is it's a fantasy, Europe. But again, Europeia, the name coming from the Greek, it has to do with the Nile. Again, it has to do with the river Nile, Europeia. It has to do with the Phoenicians. And they also were seafaring people. And you can see these rivers were used for traveling. And you can go here through to today Istanbul. This was Constantinople. You go into the rivers. You go through today Ukraine, and then you go to the North Sea, and this was the roots from the Vikings, and this still, again, here you can see this is Scandinavia, and even the whole fact that again the Prime Minister from Biafra, Simon Ekpa, being in Finland, very important. For me it's very key. Because I know if you study the Viking culture, you see the Viking are coming from Africa. It's African people with African culture. I can even show you this with on the tablet. So yeah, you have another question.
Yes, so you mentioned the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yes,
Can
exactly.
you name some of the tribes and settlements where they spread? No, at some time they multiplied and
Yes,
they
again,
were nomadic and they
it's
started
it's for example,
moving.
just to look at this. This is now Viking, but anyhow, this is from Igbo culture. So you see, everything is linked together. Igbo are original, again, Jews. Yeah. So look at this. This original Vikings, as I say. The Olmec people. The Olmec. It's also original people, seafaring people. So the Jews, let's say, you have the Peninsula Iberica. This would be Hebreria. The Sephardic Jews also would coming from here as well, from North Africa, from the Mediterranean. You have Jews, original Jews, African Jews, Afro-Semitic original Jews, everywhere, and you had them everywhere, because they were the trading routes all over the world. It is not just trading routes, again, from Igbo land, for example, from Biafra land to Mecca and Medina, or from Europe, today Europe to China. There was it went all over the world. So you had trading routes all over the world. If you see you have all over the world. If you just see this, how the island called Papua New Guinea, it's Papua. Papua means curly hair. The indigenous people from there, you see this African people. Indonesia and Solomon, why it's called Solomon. And then you have all this. You can see you go from one island to another, and you had trading routes all over the world. And as I would say, for example, in Europe, The Germans, like they say, German is the biggest ethnic group in Europe. German, so-called Europe. But the German is also a mix. Again, it would be some tribes mixing with others, but you can see the influence of Hebrew. Hebrew, because we have the most have Hebrew names, and all this, the Hebrew culture, yeah, and it's very important for whole humanity if you really say, if you study. Because, for example, I grew up in Switzerland, and Switzerland was made by the Knights Templars, again, built by the Knights Templars to be the banking land. And where did they learn all this stuff? It's again from the Jews. The Knights Templars went to the Levant, and they went there to the Temple of Solomon. They invaded, they stole knowledge, yeah, but they learned about the banking system. Again, the Igbo people and you know, they as the original Jews, they have the whole banking system, and it's very important that people to understand that in ancient times we had the highest civilization, yeah. So nowadays we have still remains from that. We have still remains in Africa. Overall, we have still high sophisticated people, you know, and traditions, you know, and the colonizers, yeah, the colonizers, when they came with the anti-culture again from here, from Spain and Portugal, because this was Al-Andalus, yeah, this was called Andalusia. It's still called Andalusia here, the south, and Portugal was called the Al-Harb, the west of Andalusia, and Andalusia it's coming actually from the Vandals, yeah, Vandalia. But this, from there they colonized first here Africa to get this, just the coast to get the slaves, and then they went to America, and they spread the whole world. Yeah? So that's why they divided even Portugal and Spain in two. So this is the anti-culture, yeah. So if you see that there were many Jewish people, indigenous Jewish people here, and they got all killed or shipped even to here, Sao Tome and Principe, yeah. Even your ancestors, Susie, right? That happened.
Yes,
That people from Granada here, from Spain, from Portugal today, they were brought because they were Jewish, yeah. They brought to here, Biafra land, and they were married then with Jewish people already living there, you know. A very interesting history. So Jewish culture is all over the world, and is very important for the whole humanity. And now, as the Babylon, Great Babylon falling, so it's very important, yeah, because what is now with the promised land, yeah, the real promised land would be again Africa, for the whole of humanity. So very important. Yeah,
Very
so we
good.
have another question. Yeah.
Yes. The next question is about Biafra. Yes.
Yes, I.
What can you tell us about the Biafra people or the Igbo tribe? And why are they so important
Again,
in
like
their struggle?
very important, because Biafra. Even if I show this, like we have here the Biafran dragon squad. Yeah, the dragon squad. Here we have this, the symbol. You see the dragon, and this is like special force from the Biafra army, let's say. And this you can see, it's also Trinity sign. So what is all going on? The people are fighting. They're fighting for their freedom. They're fighting for their lives. Okay, since the colonization came, they are resisting, you know, So they never surrendered. Biafra, very, very important. As you can see, we have here Biafra land being the original, let's say, promised land. Yeah. So even if you see the Biafran, let's say, flag, yeah, the Biafran flag. You see the sun. We have I can show you it here. Also the sun, the rising sun. It's the yeah. We have the flag here. We show. Biafra land would be here. So here's the equator, and again he would be the center of the earth. And here is very important. And you can see the sun rising. Yeah, if you are here, you can see the sun rising, and it's very important for the whole humanity. You know that you understand that Biafra is a country that exists. Yeah, and this it needs now urgently recognition. Yeah, because it is like if you talk nowadays about this, most of the people in the world they don't know anything about this. Okay, even myself, I did not know long time. So as you can see, Biafra has the leopard here. It has a horn. It has here the bird. It has a Trinity sign. It is a land from the Igbo people. Yeah. So the Igbo, they have their own country. Yeah, which should be ruled now by them to be